that skipping the seasons. So we start with Mila from Berlin and the story of TAUKO, and TAUKO means break. That's an amazing story, and they have a fantastic new initiative which they have been working, which was published like on the 15th here in Finland, and going definitely global with this idea. So Mila, please, the screen is yours.
Hello everyone, you can hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you well, thank you.
Super. Wonderful, thank you Mirko. Thank you for having me, Glasshouse Helsinki and World Hope Forum. I'm very, very happy to take part and be heard all over the world. And greetings from Berlin, from a Berlin night. It's getting dark here as well, little by little. So let's, maybe I'll try with the screen sharing, how it works. You have it?
Yes.
Wonderful. So I'm Mila Moisio. I'm the co-founder of TAUKO Design, which is a fashion brand, also nowadays a magazine, a sewing magazine. And I started in 2008 together with my best friend, a sustainable fashion atelier at that point, maybe not a brand yet. And our motivation to start working with fashion was to change the fashion industry. At that point, 2008, there was not so many brands out there yet when it comes to sustainable fashion. So we really wanted to also bring new kind of aesthetics. We felt like we have something to give to the fashion community in that sense. So this is us, Kaisa and me. Kaisa can have her bit of screen as well now. We know each other already from when we were teenagers. We grew up in a small Finnish town called Lappeenranta near the Russian border, 200 kilometers away from Helsinki. Didn't really find clothes that we wanted to wear when we were living there as a teenager, so we started sewing and making clothes by ourselves. And as many others, we also found like sewing magazines like Burda, the big international sewing magazine, but also the small local ones in Finland. And we hacked the patterns and make them kind of look like ours and created new designs. And this is basically how then in the end we learned about design and learned to work with patterns. And funnily enough, this also became kind of the core when later, years later, we decided to have our own brand. So that was kind of something that taught us to design. We decided to then study arts. So we studied art research, and this is somehow why we then ended up also in the beginning when we started this design studio to work a lot with theaters. So this is an image from one of our shows that we were part of that was touring around the world. And within this piece, we kind of learned a lot about what is the meaning of fashion and in different contexts. Like within theater, it is of course this like fictional context much more, and what kind of cultural elements there can be in the fashion and what it carries. These dresses had little motors in them, so they were actually like active parts of the stage design as well, which was very inspiring. And we learned a lot through that. Also, like what can you communicate within fashion? And on the other side, we were still doing these like customized pieces for people. So also, I think the typical thing is to make a wedding dress and kind of learning how important it is to understand what kind of meanings fashion can carry and which kind of tools they can provide for these kind of very special events for people's lives. So this was kind of what we started with. At some point, we then decided that we will stick with our fashion brand. So we will focus on that. And this is kind of an image that is very important for us when it comes to the fashion brand, because this became our main material for our designs. So from the beginning, we used reused textiles. At the very beginning, when we did this like one-off pieces, it was going through flea markets, finding reused textiles from past decades, making one-off designs out of them. But then, like many brands that want to use recycled and reused textiles, we also had this idea and maybe a bit of a problem also to understand like what can we use create like patches, to be part of the fashion industry really. And at the time we had an intern in our company who had her first profession as a nurse. And she introduced us the way that hospitals are maintaining their textiles. So after her working shift, she tossed her old clothes into this laundry bag that had the small logo in it. And we researched back into that logo and found these textile maintenance companies. I think it is easiest maybe to think of them as some kind of a big laundry houses that are located in each European city. I think a smaller city has maybe one, a bigger city has tens of them, and they maintain the whole textile infrastructure for hospitals for that city. So we started collecting them, these textiles. This is from a hotel. So hotels, and I think what we found also, what was very interesting and important, was to realize that a hotel in Finland, in Helsinki, and a hospital in Berlin, they use more or less the same kind of textile. So the textile is very homogeneous. So there's millions and millions of the same. So it kind of enabled us to find this source of material that we could use for creating similar textiles in batches. So this enabled us to create collections that we could enter to the fashion world and be part of the fashion industry. We started going to the international fashion weeks. So we presented our collections in Paris and in Berlin and in Milan essentially as well. And we somehow managed to create the standard quality that is required and also kind of hide the uniqueness. Like no matter how homogeneous a textile is when you start with it, like when you use it, it becomes it has a different personality in a way. It has it will have individuality because it's used differently. But we learned a lot about those textiles, and we learned also how to hide that in a way to create the standard quality that was or is needed. We were able to produce thousands of the same thing, like by using reused textiles from local services. So this was somehow something that we got also awarded for, and being able to create a concept of using local textiles. This is from our winter collection then. So we are now at the moment where we have 2 collections per year. So we're kind of on the slower pace of the fashion world. So we have 2 collections per year, which we release, and they are all made out of reused textiles. So they are all based on the same textiles from these hotels and hospitals. We have companies that we work with here in Germany and also in Finland. And we are also able, what is really somehow cool is that we can use the infrastructure that is already there and the local infrastructure, working together with the sewing workshops and the dyeing workshops that still exist in most European countries, even though big part of it has flown away, but there's still quite some. And I think what we find very important also with our designs is that we always carry out some kind of a message of how fashion can be empowering, how you can extend textile life cycles, and how you can do things differently. So this is also the themes of the collection kind of follow these ideas of what can be, how fashion can be actually doing good for the environment and for people. So then we come to 2020. So this is last year. We are again on the hotel bed linens there. Now we're reading something there. I think we, as many others, also were forced to take a breath. And we came to realize somehow what sustainability and fashion actually mean for us. And now we are going a bit back from where we started from, thinking about the personal value of clothing and how it is created. And I find this is a big topic for us at the moment. And we have these conversations with our long-time customers, and we discovered the real value of a piece of clothing is treasured and celebrated for its uniqueness. So the thing that we were kind of trying to hide when using reused textiles came back to us. So it's the uniqueness and the personality that gives a lot of value to people, what they wear. And we found that much more than talking about the polluting fashion industry, that we've been doing a lot and finding alternatives for production, sharing these experiences and this personal value became very, very important for us. And what we somehow found then was also through these discussions with our customers and doing the research was the kind of handprint of a maker, how important that is. Like our customers found it very important that they know us as the designers and they know where things are coming from. And the handprint also that we were kind of trying to hide, you can think of handprint also within the material in itself, came back to us, and this became kind of a big question for us. Somehow understanding like the personal value of clothing and how it is created. So all clothes in the end are made by humans, and therefore a handprint is something that defines, I would say, each garment. And working within the fashion industry, we've seen the need to hide this handprint to make everything look and feel the same. I think this is a discussion that I heard a little bit. We've been going through the seminar so far as well. The wet dream of industrial production and the current neoliberal capitalist system embraces the possibilities within the mass production, reduced production costs, and the global distribution of goods. Scalability is the opposite of uniqueness, and the maker's voice, their handprint, has been a lot of times silenced. This is something that we kind of learned, and we wanted to make room again for this handprint to be heard. And we started to think, like, what if people would make more clothes by themselves? What if they, how could we make people to commit more into clothing and what they are wearing? How could we make sustainable fashion also more accessible? Because when it comes to the uniqueness, it is usually also something that requires high-end professionals, and the cost of the work becomes very high. And then we wanted to, from that kind of different, celebrate the different handprints, so that people would go out there and be really proud, like, I made this is made by me, and it is also valuable, even though I'm not a professional, but I'm a maker myself. And then this is kind of weaving back now also to how we learned to do fashion and how we started from this small city where we are coming from. We looked back to the Burda, and we looked back to the sewing magazines, and Burda at its time was a very revolutionary magazine after the Second World War. But what we found is that the audience and the makers out there are much more diverse, and we wanted to kind of create the platform or something where all these voices could be heard and be offer a platform for the diversity and be inclusive in that sense with all the voices. And this is now the first issue of TAUKO magazine that, as Mirko says, was launched on Monday. So it's very, very fresh. And this is the platform that we are kind of now offering. The first issue is called The Age of the Maker, as this is kind of an important topic for us at the moment. It introduces, there are different articles with the subject of climate, sewing, culture and community. So there are in-depth articles and essays and columns within the magazines. But I guess most importantly, there are the designs. So each issue has 8 to 10 different designers from all over the world. We are scouting them through open call. So the designs are not by us, but they are by the community. There are upcoming fashion designers, there are pattern designers, there are surprisingly a lot of pattern designers out there as well, who we are featuring in the magazine, who sew their pieces there. And they come with, so there's the photos of the designs, and then there are the sewing instructions. And also within the sewing instructions, the designers are telling how to make the clothes. So there also we would like to somehow show the diversity, how things can be made. So a zipper can be sewn in many different ways, and a designer tells how she or he does it for them. So this is also something that I find that could make this kind of, so like starting to make your own project a bit more accessible, to understand that there's not just this one right way of doing things, but actually there are quite a few. And this is very, very inspiring and something that we would like to share. Yeah, and then there are different essays from different people. There are a lot of people who have been doing this within the sewing community and DIY community before us, so we want to also introduce them. And so the different communities, different people around the world who are doing their clothes by themselves, and who have been kind of thinking of this already a lot more. Yeah, this is my last image from my presentation. I think I would like to leave you with kind of the words of like being like exploring, being open, finding your own handprint, being kind of, I think everybody can sew, so you can go and try ahead. There are different levels of doing things, and there are different ways of finding. There are different level of designs also in the magazine, so it is trying to address a lot of different people. And you can find the magazine, of course, from Glasshouse Helsinki, where it's been sold. And we have been very, very amazed, and we are very grateful for the amazing networks that we've received so far. So actually the magazine is available worldwide at the moment, so from New Zealand to Canada, throughout Europe. Yeah, that's the one. There's my copy. Yeah.
Wow,
so
this is,
to hear your feedback.
This is a revolution. I really love it. I think it's the perfect answer to the Buddha, what the Buddha has been for our mothers and grandmothers, and how important that was, you know.
Yeah,
I
totally.
remember after the war, I was born in 50, so we would have a beautiful woman come to make the garments with my mother. So that was the nicest days of the months, and there was so much creativity just around the table. You know, it was so happy. And we would recycle also already textiles, and this is all now again a new equation, and it gets a new life. And the way you handle this with all the invites, I think it's pretty gorgeous and good and great, and it's very needed also, especially. Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.